As the first fully electric model in the Genesis portfolio, the GV60 has played a pretty important role in pushing Genesis into the electric vehicle space. And today I'm on the show floor of the 2024 New York International Auto Show, where the company is almost ready to show off the next chapter. This right here is the Genesis GV60 Magma concept. Let's take a first look. Now, if you guys remember the GV60, this vehicle shares a platform with the Hyundai Ioniq 5N and the Kia EV6. So clearly we were expecting the company to do an even higher performance version because currently the GV60 Performance has a lot less power versus what you get in the Hyundai Ioniq 5N and the Kia EV6 GT. But this model here is still being a concept. The company was ready to basically tell us that it will essentially be the first production version of their Magma performance division. So it gets me super excited for us to actually get a high performance version of the GV60. Let's go ahead and talk about the styling changes that they've made here on this concept. You can see you still have their kind of signature design theme here with the dual line LED headlights, where it has a slightly different design because unlike other models that actually have an LED light strip along this area and this area, you essentially just have these these 8 beams here, these rectangular beams that have the LED daytime running light in here along with the turn signal. You can see down here at the front splitter, it has a little bit more of an aggressive area here where it has bigger air intake openings. Those air intakes are actually to allow for cooling of the brakes and of course the battery pack and the motors, so they are actually functional. But overall, I also like how it's also lower and wider. It really gives this car a more aggressive stance. That's one of the things that I didn't love about the GV60. It looked a little bit too feminine and not quite as aggressive, especially if you compared it to the EV6 or the Ioniq 5N. So as you can see, moving around the side profile, the GV60 is supposed to be a compact SUV, but because they made this vehicle essentially wider and lower, to me it looks more like a hot hatch. And its overall length is actually interesting because this is, compared to the Kia and the Hyundai versions, this is actually the shortest model in the lineup, measuring in around 5 inches shorter versus the Ioniq 5N. You can see these wheels are unique. They're kind of like a 21-inch wheel design that has like this little arrow disc blade around it. They also protrude out a little bit. Genesis also put these Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. You also have a staggered wheel setup where you have a fatter wheel and tire. You have upgraded brakes with the orange painted Genesis Brembo brakes behind it. And this wheel essentially kind of reminds me of the wheel that we also saw on the G80 Magma Special. I really love the design of the actual wheel itself. With the lower suspension, the bulging fender flares, it really kind of creates a more hot hatch, or at least electric hot hatch look that I think is going to look extremely well when it eventually goes into production. Now you can see here the side mirrors look different because they're actually a camera that projects onto a screen. That's not street legal here in the US. So obviously, whenever a production version shows up in America, we'll have a traditional side mirror. You can see the roof has a full panoramic glass roof. This doesn't actually open to vent air, but I love, again, the black accents that you find along the window trim. These door handles also pop out just like the regular GV60 or charge port door is going to be here. Now, in terms of the powertrain, let's go ahead and speculate a little bit here because this vehicle runs on the 800-volt architecture. The regular GV60 has a 77.4 kilowatt-hour battery pack. I expect this model, when it eventually shows up, Genesis did confirm that it's going to have a larger battery pack and more powerful electric motors. I expect it to have that 85 kilowatt-hour battery pack that's in the Ioniq 5N. The EV6 GT makes 576 horsepower. The Ioniq 5N makes up to 640. So I expect this to have more with the standard dual motor all-wheel drive. Again, Genesis is supposed to be the luxury brand of Hyundai and Kia, so we expect it to have even more performance. So it'll be interesting to see what the final figures are going to be when it finally comes out. You can see the rear of the vehicle also, again, resembles more a hot hatch to me. It's got that teardrop shape where it's kind of like a coupe-style SUV, and then it has these big wing at the back. This wing, Genesis says, actually adds downforce, which is going to be good if you guys plan to take this to the track. You have the same kind of similar styling language here with the dual light blade. For the taillight design, you have a very aggressive rear diffuser area, and you can see it proudly spells out GV60 Magma concept. What do you guys think of the Magma name, by the way? It's definitely an interesting twist, although Genesis says that they aren't ready to basically say this is what the performance name is going to be. But overall, let me know in the comment section below if you guys like the updated styling of this car, and what do you guys think of the actual name Magma for performance division. Now moving to the interior of the GV60 Magma concept. As you can see, it's a concept car, but it basically looks production ready. I mean, there are big differences here compared to the standard GV60, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. Now, first of all, you're gonna get those dual 12.3-inch displays. You have a 12.3-inch display here, and then a 12.3-inch display in the center. I don't know if this has their latest software where it includes like wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. But you can see the steering wheel has also been updated where it has kind of like a flat bottom design. It has the racing stripe there at the 12 o'clock position. You have some actual Alcantara on the wheel, along with these orange accents for the drive mode and for that boost button. That boost button, I'm sure, is going to probably add like at least like 50 more horsepower for 10 seconds. That's great for you if you guys need to do a quick little pass or use the launch control. The rest of the dash you can see is pretty much standard GV60 stuff. You have some piano black accents. You have the stitching along the dash. The door panel, as you can see, also has beautiful leather stitching with the diamond quilted leather in the suede Alcantara with the contrast stitching. You can see these screens in the door panels. That's for the side view mirror cameras. That's not street legal here in the US, but I think that actually would be a nice, cool touch. So I'm hoping that eventually the US will get on board with adding that feature, or at least allowing that feature. You can see the seats, just like in the G80 Magma Special, you have these racing carbon fiber buckets, or these racing Recaro bucket seats. So you can see they have a mixture of leather and suede Alcantara with the contrasting orange stitching. These seats are also power adjustable. I don't know, actually I do know this vehicle does still have heated and ventilated seats along with a heated steering wheel. So again, really nice touch. I also love that crystal ball shifter. So if you guys remember, you turn the vehicle on, that will rotate to reveal the gear selector. It still also has the fingerprint scanner, and you also have a dial there to control the center screen if you guys don't want to actually use the touch screen and get your fingerprints all over it. Now let's go ahead and move into the backseat area, because unlike the G80 Magma Special, you can see this doesn't have the actual Recaro racing buckets that you find back here, which I think is actually fine. You do still have the orange seat belts back here along with the suede Alcantara, the contrasting stitching. There's also an adjustable headrest here. And then in terms of the legroom space, I think the regular GV60 has around 38 inches of legroom, so there's still a ton of space back here. There's a completely flat floor. You have 2 USB-C charging ports. And overall, if you guys plan to actually use a GV60 as a family vehicle, this is kind of one of the strengths of the car. So I am really looking forward to seeing what the production version looks like. But I have to say, looking at this concept interior, it basically looks production ready. And Genesis says that this model will show up at your local dealerships. They said that very soon. Now, as I said earlier, Genesis said that the GV60 Magma concept will essentially be the first model available in the US under their new Magma Performance division. And I have to say, I am very impressed with the upgrades that Genesis has made here. Clearly, they had a great platform to start, of course, being that this rides on the eGMP architecture. There's already a fantastic EV6 GT and the Ioniq 5N. So after seeing this GV60 Magma concept, it really gets me excited to see what Genesis is doing, because the company said that their Magma performance vehicles are essentially going to be luxury GT cars. So they're still going to be very comfortable to drive on a daily basis, but they're also going to be incredibly quick. And I think that's kind of the right direction that Genesis needs to go, because this is still a luxury brand. You don't want to drive around a track car that's going to beat you up on the street, but really it gets me excited to figure out what Genesis is going to do in terms of pricing, because I can't really tell you when you're going to expect to find this at your local Genesis dealerships. The company said that this is going to essentially be the first model coming to the US, and it should be soon. We can only speculate on pricing. The current GV60 is around $52,000, going up to around $72,000 for the fully loaded performance version. The Ioniq 5N is around $68,000. The EV6 GT is around $62,000. So obviously, being that this is a Genesis, I'm going to expect this model to start at least $72,000, maybe $75,000. Well, only time will tell whenever Genesis finally shows off the production version of this Magma concept. For Redline Reviews here at the 2024 New York International Auto Show, I'm Sofyan Bey.